Appreciate that. You're welcome, Allison. Have a good day. You too, thanks.
All right. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Item A, Code Enforcement. By motion, consider second reading and adoption by title only of ordinance number 481, 2025, adding section 16.04.145 to chapter 16.04 of the Weed Municipal Code pertaining to the occupancy of condemned property. Item B, Code Enforcement by motion, consider second reading and adoption by title only of ordinance number 483, 2025, adding chapter 8.10 pertaining to the unauthorized removal of shopping carts from retail establishments and to facilitate retrieval of abandoned shopping carts. Item C, Planning by motion, consider approving the 2024 Housing Element Annual Progress Report as submitted to the Housing and Community Development Department. Item D, Public Safety. By motion, consider adopting resolution number 05, 2025, approving the 2025 Weed Police Department's Military Equipment Use Policy Report. Item E, City Clerk. By motion, consider approving minutes from February 13th, 2025 special and regular meetings and March 3rd, 2025 special meeting. Item F, Finance. By motion, consider approving payment warrants dated February 25th, 2025 through March 6th, 2025, including any voided warrants totaling $593,826.66. And item G, Finance. By motion, consider approving and filing the month-end and report for February 2025. Is there any discussion or items that the council would wish to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, so we're going to move forward. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as written. Turn on the microphone.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Since there are no items removed, we will move on to regular council business. So item A was tabled from the February meeting. Public Safety. By motion, council will consider encroachment permit to close Main Street from Inez to Division on April 20th, 2025 for the 420 Festival from 0600 until 2200 hours, and waivers of Weed Municipal Code 9.16.010 and 9.16.030 for outside sale and consumption of alcohol within the event boundaries only. Outdoor consumption of cannabis is prohibited. And we have a proponent for the closure here.
It's our 7th annual year, so here we are again presenting, and I unfortunately can't help that that fell on Easter Sunday this year. Obviously, it'll be a long time before that happens again, so basically it's the same as every year before. I just had a concern today, though, is how long it was going to take for the footings and the things to take place in Heritage Plaza. Hopefully that's the footings and the concrete and stuff are done in there, so we're able to still use the plaza for next month.
I can't speak to that as it's a city park, but it's not a city project. So I don't know how long that project's going to take.
So just in case, then we would have to go back to how we did it the first few years, is basically just, shutting down the street and potentially having the music chairs, tables, and tents on Main Street instead of in the plaza.
So that would take a last minute change to the layout to do so. We'd be putting a stage in the middle of Main Street. How does that affect the fire lane? Did we do that last year?
Well, no, we haven't done that for the last 3 years.
Okay.
But the first couple of years, we put it at this end towards the market, but kind of shifted over to the left because we left a 10 feet variance from that side over for emergency, for EMS, I believe.
I think it's, the minimum is 16.
Is it? Okay, so I knew it was something like that, but so, yeah.
For Halloween.
And it was fine.
Was it Halloween or steampunk?
Steampunk.
And,
Right there for steampunk.
and it met
Yeah,
your,
so, yeah, maybe it is
Sufficient. Okay.
16 feet. I thought, sorry, I was thinking 10, but, yeah.
so there would be, last minute,
A
we'd be
backup
putting
plan.
a stage there, but it's within the closure between Division and,
Inez.
Inez, so it shouldn't cause any problems. And, the only difference would be is, I'm assuming you wouldn't have as much temporary fencing down the middle at that point.
Well, probably not gonna go with that,
Okay,
just due to the fact that we've had so many vendors apply now and we're gonna need the space. So,
but you're still gonna have the fire lane on the east side of the street,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
always.
So
Well, I think the last time that we ended up with that many vendors, we did the fire lane right down the center, I thought. Didn't we do
Right, but the-
16 feet down the
The
middle?
plan that was submitted for this agenda is
Right,
down the
is to
middle.
be from that side over.
Mm-hmm.
But I can give an accurate count. It can still be that way. I can set it up any way the city would like.
Right.
If you want to be down the center, we'll go down the center. If you want to do 16 feet off the left to the center, we can do that as well.
If you're gonna have that many vendors, I would think that you'd need both sides of the street with the
Yeah.
center line.
So do the center line,
But that's gonna take a modification to the encroachment permit.
just to the design.
We can't do it from here, you have to actually have the permit, is that correct?
Well, I'll defer to you, but I believe that as long as we're receiving it, similar to the past, with the fire lane, I mean, it's not that difficult of a
No.
change. It's
Okay.
just having it on file what the plan was. So that's what we need. So as long as we have that in hand, before the event, or, preferably sooner, then we can go from there.
Oh, I can just give it to him in the morning. It's just in case, it's based on, as you know, one year we had got rained out, so we ended up moving everything to sidewalks and inside. And then what, the next year, I think we had bad weather again too, and we ended up shifting everything to our side of the street. We've always made sure, no matter what happens, that we've always had emergency services and respected what's right for the city and the constituents that come up and come.
It's been done
So-
before, we just, as long as we have, you can make it contingent upon having an in-hand plan that matches what she's going to do, but we're not doing anything different that we haven't done in the past. But actually, this year would have been different, so we're going back to the way it used to be with this, with the lane down the middle.
So I'm thinking we could approve what's in front of us, and with the contingency that, for whatever reason, she can amend it to do we have a year in mind, a prior year?
Well, I don't have one in mind, but
Okay.
I know what she's trying to do.
Okay.
And as long as there's nothing out of the ordinary on that new encroachment permit plan,
Okay,
it should be fine. We also need we'll also need the insurance within 15 days of the event. We'll
Yeah,
also
I
need to-
already met with the insurance guy yesterday, so that's already in the works. They will have that ready, and the city is listed as the secondary insured.
So who do we have to talk to get it, to see if everything is done in that plaza?
chamber has a project.
It's a chamber project to put a canopy over
Okay.
it. And this may all be, as far as the stage goes, that's the only thing that it affects is the
Right.
stage. So as long as that's done and cured in time, I don't believe they're planning on putting the shade up at that time.
So from Margaret Dean, I'm sorry for the confusion, usually we get the stage and we put the stage up in the plaza.
Right.
Okay, but there's this and that
Okay,
going on
I
in the
see,
plaza,
okay.
so I thought, okay, instead of having the guys on Easter Sunday and their families having to deal with coming and putting the stage up and taking it down, we'll just use the slab this year, because I usually tent the entire Heritage Plaza, because I
Right.
put tables and chairs and lights up. So we won't need the stage. Well, now with this going on, that might not have room to put the tent in.
Okay.
Or if that's still under construction, we'd have to use the stage after all and put it in the street.
So if it goes
it's
to
like-
your original plan in there, then it's good.
Yeah,
Right.
the original plan to go in there, as long as the construction and what goes on.
No?
Two changes. So possible stage on Main,
Right,
that's contingent upon the plaza.
right.
She will be moving, instead of having vendors on one side of the street, they'll be on both sides of the
They'll
street.
be both sides like
With
previous
an
years.
emergency lane down the middle.
Okay, that's, I just want to get it straight.
And I believe that as long as the construction's done, I don't believe Chamber would want to put up just my personal opinion, put up a shade structure in April up here because of our weather.
I don't think so either.
I don't think we're out of snow season at that time, but, so she should be able to fit the tent inside. It's just,
I just wanna make it easy for them,
Sure.
so it goes without a hitch.
so, yeah, so as long as we have, you know, approval to either put the stage there or do the plaza, she'll get me the new encroachment permit plan, and as long as we have insurance
It'll all
at the
be
time of
within
the,
time
Yeah,
period.
and should we label that as Plan A and B and kind of basically say we're gonna go with B based on the plaza getting finished? I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean,
Right,
I'd let
yeah.
you have your A and B on that one, and let me know which one you're gonna go A and B.
Right, so if that's all right with council, I can give him Plan B tomorrow. And then, once we find out if the Heritage Plaza's done, then Justin can let you know we're gonna go A or B. But regardless, safety, EMS, everything like that always comes first. So everything will be done either exactly how it has been the previous years, or we would, based on the plaza, have to switch to the stage to the street.
So I'll
That's-
shed some light on the plaza construction as a board member of the chamber. The construction is set to be completed no later than May 1st. Now, that's weather pending. Don't know if it'll be done before the April 20th. The shade structure that was purchased in collaboration with the city, I think 4 years ago, is engineered and snow load rated. So it will be up, should be up year round is what I'm told. I haven't seen it myself personally. So we'll see how that goes, but
That's
the
another
information I have.
conversation with SCORE and insurance, I believe, but,
Right, yeah.
Well, I
exactly.
had asked the chamber with last meeting was if they got the footings and the structures in, if they wouldn't mind inserting the flag portions or the coverings after Easter, then that way, if I do tent the whole inside, which makes it really enjoyable for people that come, they're completely inside, two walls and enclosed, and they like to sit and eat at the tables, then I don't have to worry about my tent guys potentially bumping, touching your newly installed tops.
Right,
So if
and I
that
can't speak to the
communication took
construction
place,
schedule.
that would be great.
That would be something to talk to the board about and the contractor that's doing the work,
so,
so.
based on what I'm hearing, we should probably go with Plan A being the stage in the street.
I would make that plan just as a contingency to be safe.
That's what I'm hearing, so.
And can I seek clarification? This was tabled last time because there was a requirement for signatures for the businesses on Main Street, correct? Was that all attended to?
We have all signatures of businesses that will be open that day.
It's 20 feet requirement. for
20?
the-
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, I want you out there with your tape measure.
Huh?
I'll help you.
For the vote, yes.
Yeah. I was trying to avoid the guys having to work on Sunday.
Okay. All right. Well, based on some discussion with the city attorney, I will be recusing myself as I am one of the businesses on Main Street and have not signed off, so I will not be casting a vote either way on this.
I
And
thought
Pat-
his
and
signature was on that.
you're gonna have to do the same
That's why I
thing.
said businesses that'll be open.
He even told
We have
me
to
sign
leave.
up with the
Okay.
Being open.
I don't know. I thought he was.
Leave for the vote, or just leave? Just leave? We'll see you next Thursday.
There you go, Mayor Pro Tem, you gonna,
Mayor Pro Tem, okay. I'll conduct it from here.
here you go, I'll give you this thing.
When I say yeah, you swing it, okay? Haven't done this in a while. Okay, so we beat this up enough. Somebody want to entertain a motion, or do you want me to do it?
I'll make a motion to,
Public comment, I know, I got it.
huh?
Can I have clarification then? So I hear two different things. Do we have all businesses agreeing to this or no?
I was advised that we had signatures from every business that was open that day, but it's not every business. Now, whether that other business, any of those businesses that I was told were gonna be closed are gonna be open, I'm unaware of that.
So as far as we know, everybody involved is on board.
Yes.
From what I was, yeah, from the,
The veterinarian office, she's only emergency services only on that day, Grace next door. So in that case, she has her side and her back parking. So was never worried about it, but she signed off. Because she's not technically open, but if she has an emergency, she is. Daryl told me he was gonna open that day because of his business, and then
That-
Fetz is open as well.
From
And
from what it sounds like, there may be some confusion over whether the WTF fabrication will be open or closed that day. We do not have that signature, so.
So how many haven't signed then?
Everybody evidently except for Daryl, but verbally he told me he wanted to be open that day. It
So
was one of
everybody
his better
signed except-
sales.
okay.
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought.
And, yeah, within the boundaries.
Right,
Yes.
within the boundary.
Within the
Okay.
boundaries.
That's what I thought.
So he hasn't objected either, though?
Right.
We're just kind
I
of.
think since it's Easter Sunday that he's not sure because of the kids and the family, or if he has an employee to be there to be open. I think he's trying to figure that out.
I haven't.
Not to speak for him,
There's
but
been no discussion with that by myself and that business owner, but I'm not sure what their intent is on that day, but.
Is this listed in our permit encroachment, as in who has to sign off on this? Or was this just
Not that
a
I'm aware-
requirement
I'm
that
not aware
we?
that that's a legal requirement for our
Been a
encroachment.
past requirement of council's request.
So in the past, we have required 100%, I thought.
Yes.
This is the first time I've ever even
So
heard
now
this
we got
come up.
99.5.
100% of
Dates
those
back
open
to
or 100%
another
of those
festival,
affected?
not related to any.
The 2 years I've been here, this is the first time this has come up as far as having signatures.
And I think next year
I
it
just
may
as-
change, but.
this is the 7th year we've had this, so I don't,
Well, for me, I have not heard of many objections to the event. And you haven't really heard of any objections to the event for those people that were gonna be open.
Correct.
Okay, so all we can do is base a decision on the feedback we have at this moment in time. Is that right? I mean, I don't know how we're supposed to guess if we don't have an answer. We don't have a yes and we don't have a no, so I'm not
And
sure what that's.
I will also add that part of the requirement starting that was due to an event where they were actually going to close off downtown. You couldn't get in without a ticket after that event that caused some issues. That's where the council requirement came from. This is not one of those events. It's open.
That was
free-
before
free
my
flow.
time.
Free flow street.
Yeah.
I remember that one, okay.
yeah.
David, what's the required vote for the encroachment permit to pass?
It needs a majority of the council present. So we operate under Rosenberg's rules, so that requires that you only count those that are present and voting. So since we have Mayor Parham and Councilmember Virasan are absent, they're not legally present, therefore you only need 2 of the 3 essentially.
Any comment from the public? None? Okay. Well, I make a motion, unless somebody else wants to do it, that we approve the encroachment permit based on the information that we have now.
I'll second that.
Just for clarity, we are approving
Condition-
either A or
Or
B.
B.
Either A or B. It looks like what was B is now becoming A. Is that what I'm still?
What we're
hearing now?
approving is a fire lane down the center with booths on the edge line of each street, of the street, the edge line on the east and west, and the possibility of either a concert in Heritage Plaza or a stage, depending on construction at that time.
Okay.
Contingent upon receipt of insurance.
And also insurance within 15
And
days.
also, a waiver of the
Alcohol.
alcohol.
Outdoor
provisions
alcohol
as
consumption.
set forth in
Within the event boundaries.
the staff report. So that is the motion on the floor.
Then I so motion. Not to repeat yourself, but you did well. Sound like you have experience. Do I get a second from anyone?
I'll second
You
it.
seconded? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
You abstain? Don't you have to have a reason?
Then, because at that point, we wouldn't have a quorum.
So I have to vote yes or no, is what you're telling me?
If you abstain, then we're going to have to bring back, we're gonna have to draw straws to determine which of the two conflicted council members may participate so that we can have a quorum. So those are your options, Councilmember Whitstein. You can cause us to go through that entire process, or you can vote either yea
Now
or
you know
nay.
that feeling.
This is our 7th year without any incident, any problem. It's family friendly outside, there's
It's okay.
no,
We'll have a discussion up there,
Yeah.
but thanks, Liz. So,
I'll make it easy, I'll vote no.
okay.
The motion passes.
Motion passed with 2-1. So you're
Thank you.
approved. Yes.
and I'll bring that to you tomorrow, Justin,
Okay.
or Sandy.
Preferably Sandy, and then she'll be.
I'll bring it to you, Sandy.
Okay, and let's
get
bring
the-
back in Daryl and Pat.
I kind of like this.
You're on the corner, you get this. And it's not- Well, no, but it's not actually an issue, it's an issue because we don't have a particular opinion. One opinion is missing, so.
Well,
Mayor Pro Tem, where
I think there's a lot of pieces that I would have liked to be able to vote yes, but it's fine.
We're there.
Finish, Adam?
We're done. Motion passed, and we're having a.
All right. On to item B, facilities. By motion, council will consider adopting resolution number 06, 2025, authorizing the acting city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Mountain Valley's Health Centers for office space at 150 Alamo Avenue, subject to final review and approval by the city attorney.
Before you is an agreement with Valley's Health Centers for a 6-month lease at a rate of $600 a month for 2 office spaces and occasional use of what they're calling the conference room on the 2nd floor of the building at 150 Alamo. This will allow them to maintain some services within the city during their remodel of 100 Alamo Avenue.
And the library is on board. We're okay with, the library hasn't objected.
Thank you. And the library hasn't objected to any of what's going on, or have they been advised?
I've advised them that this was part of the agenda, but
Okay.
again, they don't utilize the 2nd floor of the
So it's
building, so it shouldn't affect any of their,
ongoing, okay.
And the entrance for Mountain Valley Healthcare and their patients was separate from the library, correct? That'll be through the,
it is a separate entrance. That building is unique in that we actually maintain 2 different library spaces that will cross through the Mountain Valley entrance, which is a common area to the staircase going to the 2nd floor. But there is a doorway. There are 3 closed doors, one to the exterior, one to the children's library, and one to the general library. But there will be some cross-traffic potentially, both of staff and of patrons to the library.
Do we have an idea of what kind of services are going to be provided by the medical center at that location?
They have stated that possible some counseling and I believe it's going to be like post-treatment follow-up services, and then as well as some faculty amongst their staff utilizing the conference room.
I suppose I can be direct in my question. Are we in any way authorizing a lease where individuals who might be subject to, for instance, 290, be crossing paths with our library?
Potentially, if they were, the Mountain Valley Health would not know that, whether they were or not. But yeah, it's potential. You're having people that seeking services from the health clinic coming into a library, yes.
I'm just curious on their counseling and whether or not it would.
You have a conflict, huh?
Yes.
I don't know what 290 is, but I can infer what it is. So, well, I'm just saying, that could be a moment point of concern. I would have liked to see the library here, but since we don't have the library here, so.
They were advised today, but I didn't offer them to come and give their opinion. It's a city building,
Right, I understand.
so, yeah, that's, I mean, it's ultimately your discretion what you want to do with that building.
No, I think it's fine.
How many times, do we know how many times a week they have children's activities going on there?
There are discussions to start having a once-a-week planned event. They aren't, we haven't reached that point yet, but there has been some inquiry today, just today, about that. But the children's library is open whenever the general library is open.
Okay.
What are their hours of operation? And how many days again are they open?
Tuesday through Friday, currently noon to 5.
Okay.
Do we
Potentially,
have,
if we expressed our concern to Mountain Valley, maybe they could at least self-govern a bit.
They're limited in what they can do, both in that circumstance and what they can relay to us by HIPAA, I'm sure, so.
Okay.
do we have anybody here from Mountain Valley Health Centers? No?
And Mountain Valley Health Centers has never had at any of their facilities private security.
No, that would be a different medical facility that has their own private security. Mountain Valley's, to my knowledge, hasn't ever had private security.
Have there been any issues at Mountain Valley in the past, not with the place they want to rent, but with their other location?
I can't specifically state if it's with clientele or not, but I don't believe it's with the clientele. We recently had an event across the street, but it was not one of their clientele. It was just somebody who came in and was having a bad day, yeah, so.
All right.
That's a great concern because I know that in the summertime, the library do host a lot of children's event. As of my children also attend the summer programs there with the library with their free times and books and whatnot. So that's a good concern that we should look into and see what type of patients or what type of, that is going to be hosting, so.
Right, well, I believe ultimately all they can tell us is counseling services. That's all they're gonna be able to tell us.
All right.
But someone going to say the regular doctor could have the same issues going on, and they're gonna go to the doctor, it's not gonna stop them from going to the doctor, so I don't, unless they can put a door in somewhere else, or to block it, the area off to where that part of the library isn't accessible. I know you have to go upstairs
Right.
on it, I don't know if something we can do there on it or not, but
Well, our public library is open to the public, same as any health center is. And while I have frequented the library and different healthcare facilities with my children for doctor's visits and library tasks, it's like any other public, I mean, just here in the city council chambers is open to the public. We can't predict if a ne'er-do-well or somebody is going to enter and cause an issue. I don't think that's gonna be a high risk or potential increase of risk having an office space rented to somebody upstairs. We're talking about metal detectors and security guards to the library next, going down this slope is, I think what we're looking at here. So, are there any public comments in regards to leasing office space upstairs?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make sure that the council had the updated lease agreement that was distributed after the, okay.
Yes.
So that, I have reviewed that agreement and that passes our approval.
you've looked at it.
It's actually our form, so yes.
Yeah.
Gotten a quote on that.
No public comment?
I will add that it's gonna take some work by Public Works, both staff and some scheduling with some other businesses to repairs, to get the building upstairs in particular into condition to lease out. We have some problems with the heating and air that need to be addressed before then. We are in the works of getting some quotes on fixing that, but that is an issue that's currently needs to be addressed prior to.
Right now it's vacant, and it's although it's not making us anything, it's not costing us anything either. What are we talking about, cost estimates, do we know, Chris?
No, not right now. One business did say, one company did say that the whole entire heating and cooling system does need replaced, including compressor, the air ducts and everything else. There is severe cracking in the walls that will most likely would have to get repaired as well.
As in caulking and paint, or as in,
It could, if we'd end up having to take
Not
further, look
Replat.
into it, it could just be some tape and some, texture. But right now, we don't know until we investigate, see what caused it.
And I will say, it's not costing you anything if you don't address the problems, and that's where we're at. So
right?
I think irregardless of leasing the building out, you need to address the problems.
There's no
You're
doubt
running
with
into
that,
that
I
in more than
understand.
one building.
I'm just wondering if we're gonna do repairs in what time frame? Because this lease takes effect April 1. You gotta be pretty Johnny on the spot to kind of pull that off in 2 weeks.
Yes, that's,
Better than me, anyway, I have to say that.
yeah, that's, reason why we're waiting to hear back from the company,
Okay.
especially for that heating and cooling.
Do we have any contingency, David, in here if we can't meet repairs to get it in rentable condition? I didn't see any, but.
I'd have to check.
Well, it's under number 11 here, though, for under maintenance.
Maintenance?
We are
But that's as
obligated
it's being
to
rented.
Right there. That's what we're talking about.
provide heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems.
So the heating and air has to be fixed. Well, that probably wouldn't hurt as far as, that impacts the library as well, correct? No?
No, they're on a completely different system. There's two different systems in that building.
This central air or mini splits or?
It's central air.
It's probably gonna add to your cost if you're getting cold temperatures coming down from the ceiling, second floor, because it is open and, again, there's a staircase and some open
Yeah.
spots that you're not reaching a balance in there, so you'll probably have a higher heating cost on the lower level because of the upper level.
Yeah, the upper level's kind of open and, not kind of open, it's really open. Got windows up there too, so it was quite the building in its day, but anyway. I don't know.
Can, in 9, I see that utilities is wiped out. If they're running a separate heating and cool, was utilities wiped out under the belief that the library was using the same utilities?
I am not sure. This form was returned with utilities crossed out. I believe that was part of the negotiation with the city regarding the terms.
So in the original, in their contract, we were responsible for the utilities. Then we switched to the city-approved agreement. I did not agree to strike anything from that.
But you're saying originally that the city was responsible for utilities? Is that what you said?
Correct.
So they crossed this out because they
I'm
wanted
assuming
to
so,
seal it.
yes.
They
That was
wanted-
not discussed, but that's,
So that means they'll be taking that portion over. So the only thing we have to do is repair, which,
well, I don't know that we have the capability of splitting the utilities and figuring out, currently we don't have an accurate number of what the utilities are costing the city at this point. I just inquired about that about a week ago. You're running bills of $700 in August and bills of $800 in December. And in between, you're fluctuating
For heating,
for utilities and for electrical, not specifically heating, but, I mean, there's other devices there. You're running, there's 7 workstations, there's, just, I'm sure there's a coffee pot and other things, but yeah, for total utilities, it's.
but most of it's utilities. We must have 2 heat pumps, I'm thinking. as
I
two
believe there's
separate-
actually 3 in the back, if I remember correctly. Which one, again, I'm not a heating and air person, but which one's not working, I can only assume is the big one, but.
Well, it makes sense that if we're heating the library sections, both sections, and the other part is not heated and not functional currently, that we're having a lot of bleed off from that heat system. So having the entire building in good repair and functional should alleviate some of that wasted energy.
Right, and as Councilman Palfini mentioned, what the building was originally, you know, it's not I doubt that there's a lot of insulation in those walls. The upstairs there's not insulation, there's not an attic, so you're just talking probably sheetrock, maybe some insulation. It was remodeled in the early 80s. So again, there's not much of a layer there protecting from the outside elements, and it has a metal roof, so.
Well, my concern is if we're looking at an electrical bill right now of $700 to $800 and we add an upstairs with an extra heating unit and we're only receiving $600 in rent, I don't think it's unforeseen to say you're looking at an additional $300, $400 in electricity. So it's basically eating up the rent we're asking for.
Do we
Or-
know how many, I'm sorry.
Chris, do you have a different view on that, or?
No, I do not.
I believe that it's possible we need a new ducting system up there as well. There is an upstairs furnace unit, but again, I don't know what shape the ducting is in.
What I'm thinking, if we can negotiate higher rent, kind of what Melissa's suggesting, fixing the heating and air conditioning system may not be a bad thing, because we do have potentially future plans. It has to, if we do the repairs, that should add to the value of the property.
Right. How much, what they're referring to is the conference room. That was originally an office space years ago. When I went in there today, there's no heating going on in that room, but there is a fan running. So I'm not sure what's occurring with that heating and air system, but when I walked in there, there's definitely air movement and that fan is running. So, it's blowing cold air. So I don't know that that's going to increase, them being in that room on occasion, but the 2 small offices are very small, so I can't believe they're gonna be heating, it's gonna take much to heat those 2 small offices. And then the bathroom unit is downstairs, so that's
Do
already
we
part.
know what their schedule is for up there? Is it gonna be about the same as the library, or is it 5 days a week that they're gonna be seeing patients?
We haven't discussed their schedule, but the library has the ability to seal off their general library and all their interior doors from that facility.
Okay.
So we could isolate that cost a bit.
Potentially, yeah, we've got to get some people in there to take a look at it and figure out. But this was, I know it's coming to you with little information, but there's a narrow window because of their construction date of April 1st. They reached out to us, I guess it's been discussed with past city managers.
Was it discussed a while back?
It was discussed apparently in the spring. I had some contact with them in midsummer. And then there was some more discussion with the interim city manager, but no actual agreements. There was a walkthrough and some other things that occurred without, I wasn't part of that, so.
I did a walkthrough with the resource center. And whether we could make that work or not, we never came to any kind of conclusion. But I did take one note that there were people in those side rooms that you're describing, and it was modestly cold, but they were all wearing jackets, is what I did bring to mind. I'm going, they were all kind of bundled up.
Right.
So,
The reason for the narrow window here is they reached out to me since the last council meeting, and my becoming the acting, and that's why we have such a narrow window between now and April 1st, so.
So if we want to make this work, it's your understanding that they're going to be doing construction inside of that building, so could we potentially have a little bit of a leeway as far as getting the heating fixed, because they wouldn't technically be occupied?
Yeah, I don't know what their construction plan is on 100 Alamo Avenue. I believe what they're just hoping to do is maintain some services here in town, so they're not moving everybody to, or having to have everybody go to Mount Shasta.
So it sounds to me like we have a building that the city's responsible for in disrepair, that we need to repair either way.
Yes.
And if we don't approve this lease agreement, then our, constituents are gonna have to travel out of town to get services. And we're talking about a period from April 1st to September. So we're gonna be going into warmer weather, hopefully, here soon. And so I look at this as this is supporting the community and, our medical partner next door. And we have to do the repairs anyway. So this just makes us be more diligent and timely with the repairs. So, and the rent costs will help offset the costs of the repairs. And my experience is that having a building vacant tends to be worse for the building than having it occupied, so.
One, and you have another. And you don't wanna lose this medical office in this city
No,
Yeah.
we're not. You're correct.
at any cost almost. I mean, it just, we have to make sure this doctor office stays here when they're done with the remodel and they come back.
Yeah, and as long as we're looking at break even, we're not subsidizing them being there, this, I think, is a reasonable.
Any leaks in the building?
Do you want to handle that one?
So
Significant leaks, I'll have to rephrase that.
during the last, storm, there was a leak from a skylight, and we are gonna get up there and seal that off.
Okay. So nothing
No.
disastrous, okay.
It has a metal roof, so
Okay.
the points of entry for the water would be the skylights. And again, that had significant amount of snow sitting up there. That roof, on those skylights tends to hold the snow. That is an issue. I think that can be repaired, but that actually, I'm not sure if did you go in those upstairs offices? Did that affect those offices?
No, it did not.
No, so mainly it was affecting the library at that time, so downstairs.
So let me ask the people that are most involved here, you two. Do you feel this is a positive move for us?
Yes, I do.
I think so as part of this, I looked at the appraisal in 2023. City paid cash, we did no pest inspection, no.
No, right.
This is something that we need to address either way, whether we rent it out or not. It's a building, it's a facility that we need to maintain, and give some attention to.
Can I ask one last question? Where do we come up with the $600 rent figure from? What is it, what's it attached to?
Again, I wasn't part of any prior discussion for rent, that came from them. So if that was an agreement, or not an agreement, but a verbally stated price, I did not come up with that number. That was what was supplied by the leasee.
How many square feet do we have total, you know?
What's that?
How many square feet?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I'd put it at 4,000, yeah.
4,000 square feet. Some of it's not usable in my estimation, but it's quite a bit of square footage. You've got, that's 50 cents a square foot. Is that, am
I mean, yeah, I can get those numbers. I don't have that with me right now.
50 cents a square foot would be 800, so.
But we need to figure out what we're doing now.
Right, and I don't want to squeeze so much that we lose a potential tenant, and as Mark said, we want to make sure we got Mountain Valley sticking around, so.
I agree with that, but I want to make sure that we're
It's
at least cutting even on the situation, and, it doesn't seem to me like 50 cents a square foot is all that much to ask if we're really at,
50 would be 800, that'd be a $200 boost. So you haven't really negotiated it at all? Or?
No, again, they reached out to me, said this was something we'd been discussing with the interim. This is something they had expressed interest in dating back to early 2024, it sounds like. And then, again, with being the acting with a very limited time, I tried to get something before you so that they could be facilitated.
If the council is interested, it can have a special meeting, it can have a closed session with respect to this item. It is a real estate negotiation, so,
Okay.
it's up to the council, obviously, depending upon your schedules, but certainly, it's not April 1st yet, and there are other options if the council's interested in pursuing them in terms of meeting and discussing.
Good idea.
Actually, I like the idea overall of renting. I'm kind of, I'm with Mark that we want to make sure we keep Mountain View, Mountain Valley, Mountain something. I'm with Melissa, the fact is that a little more equitable rent would be not a bad thing, so.
And I'm not looking at making money on the project. I agree
No,
that
it's not making money. Actually, $800 is not,
Yeah,
based upon what the description we're getting.
It's how we keep a business in this county.
And I think it's very important. I think it's important to have a medical facility here. I hope it would encourage them to bring more medical facilities here. I think the difference between $600 and $800, making it a little bit more equitable, might be something worth approaching. Not saying that that would be the make or the break situation, but, there is going to be a cost, and I would like not to underwrite additional costs to the city that should belong to the health center.
So we don't have a special meeting? I think that's the only way. We either have to, there's no way for us to approve this unless we amend it. And if we amend it, then,
You can approve it as amended, and then it'll be up to the health center to decide if they want to agree to it. You can
or we
direct
could go
staff,
table it and go back to
you
them.
can
and
direct
discuss.
staff to negotiate a different rent price and bring it back at a special meeting for consideration.
Let's do that.
I
Right.
think that's the best.
I think before we start talking about negotiating rent prices and looking at costs, we need to understand, what the operating cost estimates are going to be. The repair costs, we're gonna have to do the repairs either way. So that's a sunk cost to us. That has to be repaired. So I'm looking at this as, do we anticipate that the utilities and the city costs of use of that building to exceed $600? That's really the question here.
Well, and wear and tear.
So, as far as a stairway with a couple offices, I don't think that there'd be a lot of wear and tear. They're certainly not gonna wear a hole in the carpet in 6 months. Now, David, in our contract that we have currently before us, does it have any statements in there for excessive damages? So, somebody accidentally lights a garbage can on fire or something like that.
Well, they're gonna be liable for damages that they cause
Yeah.
under our agreement.
And that,
Excuse me.
that's generally what most rental contracts have,
Yeah,
so.
it's,
So I think we're splitting frog hairs here over a couple $100 for that facility on a short time frame myself, but
Well, at least that money there will pay for libraries and other costs for their heating and their utilities. And if you don't do that, then guess what? The city keeps paying that bill.
yeah.
So I'm not saying not negotiate it, but I'm saying don't walk away from this. That's just, this might get-
We're paying the bills and repairs either way. At least this keeps our medical facility engaged and in town during their remodel. So. Any further discussion from council?
We beat the hell out of this.
We did, we worked it all over the place.
Well, I think part of the reason that I would say is follow what David is saying is I think that Justin needs to have an opportunity, or the appropriate person to discuss with Mountain Valley the fact that we might not be able to deliver the building on April 1st. That still remains an issue, right?
Yes. We're waiting on the heating and air conditioning people. Yeah.
So I don't even know if we can approve this, because we would default, since there's nothing in there about turning it over late.
So there's no time factor on when they're gonna get back to you on this?
No, I did end up calling them today and left a message trying to get a quote today because it's been about a week and I still have not read them. They're local. They're local.
Must be busy then.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are busy when it comes to any type of construction whatsoever.
Unfortunately, I understand your concerns. We don't have the historical data to estimate what the increase in cost or,
It's been a long time.
yeah, so.
I mean, I think my biggest concerns are, one, we can't adopt this without knowing what our default would be for not turning over the building on April 1st. And I think that's gonna require some open discussions between interim city manager and Mountain Valley Health Centers to make this work.
Yeah, I agree that if were we to sign this lease agreement and yet not have a habitable office for them to occupy on April 1st, we could be liable for some damages.
So just on that alone, I think we need to go back. Regardless of the rent issue.
Right. I just,
Well, I'll make a motion that we table this to a special meeting at a future date during the month of March, once we have our renovation timeline and estimates returned back from our Public Works team.
So are you saying we'll try to get this in the month of March? the
Yes,
special meeting?
the motion is to table this for a special meeting in the month of March, pending the timeliness of when we get our estimate from a contractor for the repairs needed to the building. So that we
I'll
know that
second
the
that.
building's prepared,
second that.
ready for the renter.
Are you also directing staff to continue negotiations, or is that something you guys will deal with at the special meeting?
I think that's something I'll have to deal with at the special meeting, because at this point, we don't have enough information to make an informed decision until
And
we
I would
know when
recommend
we
a
can
closed
be.
session for that meeting.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
do we have to notice that? Is there a notice requirement? Do we need to set
Yeah.
a date now?
No,
we don't have to set a date
We'll have a
now.
24-hour notice.
Yeah.
Okay. I
'Cause
just
we
wanna
don't-
make sure if it's possible to make this April 1st deadline. and
Yes,
we
that's
do
the goal.
what's necessary
We
to,
have to make some decisions almost by next week.
yeah. Although, we could direct Public Works to already begin fixing the walls, right, since it needs to be done anyway?
Well, what needs to be fixed should be, if they have time, because they're busy
Yeah,
too.
but
Did you get a chance to look at that?
No, he's not busy.
So I was over there today, inquiring if the people had been in to give us an estimate. And then two, I went upstairs and looked. It appears to be cosmetic based on my knowledge of that
Right.
building. I can only assume that I have never been under that building, can only assume that based on its age, it's post and pier, and there's gonna be forever settling on that building. That being said, it appeared cosmetic sheetrock issues, that should be not difficult to fix, but it might also, it will require some paint, so. That's gonna be an added cost, but, because it is it's actually almost 3 stories without a third floor. So there will be some ladder work involved in that.
I don't wanna see Chris's head explode, but, cause I saw it when I mentioned that, but, I'm kind of under the impression if Public Works can get that going, I think, we'd like to know, the building, we have enough buildings that are run down and we don't need a city-owned building to be that way, so I think the repairs need to be done anyway.
Well, I will float the idea that it might need a actual sheetrock contractor, just because, just in my experience, you can patch it, I mean, that's a simple patch, but doing it right, there might be a way, I'm just suggesting, there might be a way that it will not reoccur sooner than later. That might be something we might wanna look into.
I think that's gonna be part of getting the repair estimates that we discussed as the motion, along with the HVAC system, is knowing exactly what we have to do, the time frame, and the cost. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Do we have any public comment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll table this for a closed session special meeting.
Do you want to, how do we set that up? How close are you to meeting with, the heating and air?
Just waiting on for a phone call. They've already came and took a look at it.
'Cause there's 3 locals, right? Well, if you consider all the way to Wairika local and back here.
Yes.
All right, well, hopefully we'll have an answer here by next week. All right, agenda item C, Public Works by motion. Council will consider adopting resolution number 07, 2025, entering a memorandum of understanding with Teamsters Local 137.
This is just a final signature, an agreement upon the MOU that was discussed prior with Interim Baker.
Okay.
I know we've had a lot of discussion over the last few months on this. Any discussion from the council on this?
I think the only thing we were questioning was, how we paid overtime, wasn't it? Something like that, or vacation, whatever it was. I think we resolved that at the last meeting.
Yeah, it's to my knowledge, everything's been resolved.
Yeah.
As he was leaving, I was advised that the next step would be to present and approve.
Okay.
Yeah, and the contract that was presented to us is the same that we discussed in our last closed session.
Yeah.
Do we have any public comment on the MOU with the Teamsters? No? All right,
I'll make a motion, that we enter into resolution number 07-2025, entering a memorandum of understanding with Teamsters Local 137.
A second?
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item D, discussion item only. Council will discuss the option of adding invocation prayer to the agendas and give direction to staff.
This is on here at my request, and I will say that, I believe invocations are important to set the minds of the public and the council, in a place of common good. And I think a reminder of discernment and openness, is important in a public meeting. That obviously, it would be non-secular, but just a moment to frame everybody's mind in the correct way, moving forward with our agenda and giving a blessing of our agenda that we're acting in the common good for the city of Weed. And so it is my request that it would be added. I know that, David is, I assume that the legal opinion has gone out to council.
I have not issued a written legal opinion to council on this. I'm happy to discuss orally this evening the legal implications and viability or whatnot. But given that we didn't have, I was not directed by the city manager or majority of the council to put substantial work into this. I just prepared some notes for this meeting. So I'd be happy to go over that now if you're interested.
Well, I guess, do we have any discussion or questions from the council, opinions in regarding having an invocation at the beginning of the meeting?
I'll start. I'm not in favor of invocations. Invocations always are indicative of religious thought. That doesn't mean everybody's on this similar. I understand that there is particular common good. I don't think most of us would be here unless it was a common good, but I believe it creates a secular attitude, so that there's individual feelings towards all of that. Personally, I will tell you that I am agnostic, and I don't care. But I do care about making a prayer, and I don't like it. And that's just plain and simple for me. And I'm not here to hurt anybody's feelings on beliefs and whatever. It's just not my personal beliefs. And okay, that's my 2 cents, 4 cents, 6 bits a dollar. Okay. So that's just difference of opinion.
This is a tough one, but who would do the prayers? And I'm looking at, the 5 of us sitting up here, and could be different types of beliefs or religions or practice. So how do we do that? And I'm okay with it, that it's basically fair for everybody and how they believe.
Well, I think the main point of these prayers is that they have to be non-secular.
Right, who does the prayers? I'm just asking. Would you be doing the prayers? Would David be, I'm just asking.
Well, I can give you an
There's-
example. Our Siskiyou County Board of Council opens every single one of their sessions with an invocation.
The supervisors? do?
Yes.
There's a few different ways to do it, but the way that the Supreme Court has indicated in the Town of Greece case is, can be permissible under the U.S. Constitution, not the California Constitution, is to have it open to any faith, and it's better to have a clergy person from outside provide an invocation from the lectern. So normally they just, you let the community know that this is open, and you allow any faith, practice to come, and they can provide their invocation. There are some councils and maybe boards that where the individual council members provide an invocation. Some provide a specifically religious invocation. Some provide simply, a nice quote, maybe sort of a secular invocation. There isn't a lot of law on that, but given that under the U.S. Constitution, the idea is that you are not preferring any one religion, having it limited only to council members, of which there are only 5, could potentially be a problem. And I think there was a case out of Virginia where it was council members providing invocations, and it was a district court case, but it came out and said that that did violate the Establishment Clause of the U.S. Constitution. So if you are going to go this direction, my recommendation would be that it be open to all faiths, and just invite any clergy person. I think we have one general counsel client where maybe, they don't always get someone to come in from outside, and so they're, maybe 25% of the time it does end up being a council member that provides an invocation. And so there's probably some wiggle room there. But that's under the federal constitution. So under the state constitution, you guys need to understand there's also an establishment clause that's similar, basically the same as the U.S. Constitution. But there are also 2 other clauses. There's a no preference clause, and there's a no aid clause. And we do not have California Supreme Court decisions with respect to those 2 clauses on how they apply to a legislative invocation before a legislative body. So there is uncertainty until we actually have a decision from the California Supreme Court on those issues. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is out there, and they have sued different cities, for issues like this. Usually they just settle them. But you should be aware that there is some risk, and that's mainly because
Through the
California Constitution is the no aid clause in particular could be construed to say that even because they have applied that to high school graduations, for example, and they said that that's impermissible. But high school graduation is different. That's just like a once in a lifetime event for children. This is something that happens every month, our council meetings, and it's not focused on children, so there's obviously some differences there. But in any case, you would want to open it up to everyone, have it rotated, not ask or compel anyone to participate in the invocation, and the invocation should refrain from denigrating other faith traditions, obviously. So that's essentially what I would have written to you guys, and I can provide more detail if that's the will of the council,
Okay.
but I did want to make sure that that was all on the,
Figured the state of California would have an issue.
it may have an issue.
Yes, and I think there's the fact that it's been a longstanding tradition here in Siskiyou County in our Board of Supervisors. I feel that there is a lot of individuals in our community who feel that our board should be in reflection on making discernment, and I would not want to foreclose them from not being able to help guide the board in their own way. And, I understand, Ken, your position, but on the opposite hand, to not allow those people to express an invocation before us is also saying that a preference of being agnostic is going to prevail over their views. And so I would agree that it wouldn't be an invocation for every single one. It would, I would personally say it needs to be open and recognized. I know we have a very large contingent that is also coming in that's supplying very good resources to weed and doing some building, and expression of their faith also might be very important. But I wouldn't want to foreclose it from community members who want to help guide this board. And usually it's a chaplain at the Board of Supervisors, but I know that there is a number of individuals who, in various backgrounds, who could, if they chose, to present an invocation.
I think putting a prayer is good, but it is not for myself. My personal opinion is that I am a Buddhist, I am a spiritual person, and I feel like if we put a must prayer, it's going to be indicating that we have to be that religion, or the indication that this is what we're setting for everyone to be, or everyone to practice, or everyone to follow. It's not a bad thing, but I believe that it might put a little bit more pressure on how I was to believe or understand, or putting myself or leading towards the faith. As of myself being open to being spiritual, being a Buddhist, being, it will be hard for me to really fully understand. It's a different religion. It is not a bad path, but I believe that in religion itself, every religion teaches you how to be good, but it's the implication of how people really direct it towards their life or towards everyone else. So that's my personal opinion on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, as it has been put several times before, this would be a non-secular, open to all faiths to come and give the invocation. So I don't see where this would be something that would be specifically for or against any particular religion. I do see where, this could be very interesting if the public decides to run with it on, I have seen in my past a lot of interesting faiths, so to speak, outside of what are commonly faiths in the, you know, the United States of America. So it could be opening the doors to some interesting implications from a various diversity of belief systems. But again, if it's a non-secular invocation, then it shouldn't lean toward any one particular belief system, you know, and I won't name out different systems because I'm sure I'll leave somebody out and they'll be upset. But that's why this is a discussion item. This is not have to make a decision today, but I would be interested in public feedback on this. I know the public here is very limited tonight, and but this is where I appeal to the 6 or 7 YouTube viewers, and to share with the rest of the community, and to please send us your thoughts on that. You know, email us at the city, let us know. Email the council members. Please don't burden our staff. They're very busy, but all the council emails are available on the website. Email us, let us know your thoughts on tonight's discussion item, and so that we can carry that forward and consider this discussion further.
I just want to say what I think. I don't want to step on anyone's toes, and that's not what I was getting at here. Because Pat made a very good reasoning on that, and I completely understand that. But like I said, that's something I have to think about or pray on even to get a decision for me on it. But it's a tough one. Never saw this one coming. But it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just something we all have to, each individual has to kind of, and I don't want to offend anybody. That's kind of what it's a good group of people that are up here and staff, and I want, you know, everybody to be as happy as they can be and have their own thoughts, you know, so it's something I would definitely look into more for me, just speaking for myself.
I would like to add one small other definition here. Secular to me is talking about Protestants, Baptists, Catholics. It's regarding the Christian religion. Buddhist, Muslim are different religions entirely. Secular has to do with the Christianity and those religions within that theme of Christianity. When you're talking a whole different religion, I don't think secular has something. We can look at the definition if you'd like. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So anyway, I just want to, again, I just don't think it's proper to have it up here on the dais or whatever. Anyway.
So the definition of secular is
Like I knew you'd look it up.
attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. Something secular is the opposite of religious.
Okay.
Sectarian, however, refers to a religious sect. So a Protestant, a Baptist. You know. But I think probably it would apply to, you know, a Reformed Jew as opposed to an Orthodox Jew, as opposed to a conservative Jew. You know, a Tibetan Buddhist as opposed to a Zen Buddhist. You know, I think sectarian refers to a religious practice. Secular is non-religious. So you can have a secular invocation, an invocation that just says, you know, I want everyone to consider the gravity of the decisions tonight that we're going to be making, and, you know, hope that we can all work together to create a better city. Whereas you could also have a sectarian or a religious invocation that specifically acknowledges the existence of a higher power or a spiritual aspect of our common, you know, lives. And so you can have invocations that involve either or both. But my advice is, if you're going to open it up to sectarian or religious invocations, the best way to do that is to allow any religious group, whether it's a a Wiccan or a Buddhist or a Catholic or an Orthodox Jew provide that invocation.
I stand corrected. Thank you, David. I knew you'd correct me.
Well, I guess the question for the council and staff and the public to consider, as we close out this discussion item, is that taking a moment to have have a secular invocation to remind us that we're here for the public good and to have discernment in our conducting of our business, does that harm our operation or take away from what we're doing here? I don't feel that that is the case. Sometimes it's good to be reminded of why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. But again, that's why this is a discussion item. There will be no action taken tonight. And I hope that we'll finally get some emails and responses from the public. And
If I may, just to clarify my advice, if the invocation were to be secular, non-religious, then I don't think there is a need to open it up to the public. I think that's something that probably the council could provide, because we're not invoking the establishment or the no aid or the no preference clauses of the Constitution. Does that make sense?
it does, at least to me. So that was a interesting discussion item. Does the council have any further discussion?
No, Mr.
On
Mayor.
the
not for
topic.
me.
All right, well, we will move on to our next agenda item, and that is a citation appeal hearing. Council hearing appeal from Jeremy Pearson on citation number A1210, a violation of Lee Municipal Code 10.28.060B, repair vehicle on roadway. And so, we'll,
I think I'll excuse myself from this because of something that happened in a planning commission meeting, a disagreement between your husband and myself, I believe. You forgot about that?
Oh, no, sir, I did not.
Okay, so I think I'll excuse myself so it can be discussed between the four of you. So
Okay.
get it fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
yes,
Just, I can lay the groundwork for
Please.
the council, because this is an appeal hearing with respect to an administrative citation that was issued. I am here as a city attorney advising the decision-making body, which is the city council. I was not involved in the enforcement issues. At this point, there has been an appeal, and that appeal normally goes to the city manager, but given the fact that our acting city manager is a law enforcement officer, it's been delegated to the council to ensure that an impartial decision maker is involved. Under our code, and we are operating under chapter 19.01 for administrative hearings, we do not operate according to the technical rules of evidence. Any relevant evidence may be admitted if it's evidence on which reasonable persons are accustomed to rely in the conduct of serious affairs, regardless of the existence of any common law or statutory rule that might consider such admission improper in a civil or criminal proceeding. However, you do have the authority to exclude irrelevant or unduly repetitious evidence. Based on our code provisions, the notice of violation, the administrative citation, it shall be accepted by you as the hearing body as prima facie evidence of the facts. You shall allow the appellant the opportunity to testify and present evidence about the code violations, but it would be their burden to overcome the prima facie evidence of the citation. So with that, I think you can open up the hearing. You can hear from the enforcing officer, and then you can hear from the appellant and ask questions as you see fit.
all right, we will go ahead and proceed to open the hearing, and I guess we'll be starting with the enforcement officer.
It's Officer Yingling. I have him, he'll be coming up.
Good afternoon, council.
Okay.
So, on the February 28th, 2025, approximately 9:13 in the morning, I observed a municipal code violation of 1028.060, paren B. Contacted Mr. Pearson, advised him of the violation. He was given approximately an hour to subside the violation and move his operation from the roadside into, I believe if I rollotaped it out, it was 93 feet from where the commercial vehicle was parked into his business, which is just across the roadway. At approximately 10:10 hours, I recontacted him and he was still actively working on the commercial vehicle. I believe it was a starter. I just advised him that, he was given a permissible amount of time and he'd be receiving an administrative citation for the violation for not clearing it up in time.
Okay, council, questions?
So the ticket was for just not moving the vehicle in a timely manner?
So, per 1028.060, paren B, it's washing, greasing, or repairing such vehicle except repairs necessitated by an emergency. So he was issued a citation for that, as he was warned numerous times in the past, as well as an hour prior, he was still actively working on the vehicle.
So the vehicle being worked on was across the street from the property of the repair business?
That's correct.
Now, what property was the vehicle on? Was it on public right-of-way, like roadway? Was it on someone else's parcel, like?
So it was off to the right of the roadway, just a dirt lot off North Wheat Boulevard. I believe it's Edgewood would be the nearest crossed.
And is that railroad property or?
I did witness the location of the vehicle that day. I was not in a marked unit. I was in an administrative unit. It was on State Route 265, which is California Divisions of Highways property. It is a state highway.
Okay.
But I will clarify, it was not on the road, in the roadway, it was on the dirt shoulder of the roadway, so I will clarify that, so. But it's still California Division of Highway property.
What were the weather conditions?
Clear sunny day.
How long was the vehicle worked on approximately after the citation?
I believe I had to go handle some other business at the time, so I'm not sure how long it was remained there, but when I asked him, the second time I contacted him, how long is this going to take, he said approximately another hour.
Okay.
So at that time, it would have been there several hours.
Can I ask a jurisdictional question? What's our definition of roadway that applies to 10.28.060? In other words, if this is a state highway, is it a roadway under our municipal code?
I think we would just apply the common sense definition of roadway here. I don't think there's any special definition in our code. And it would apply to city streets as well as state highways. I mean, it would.
So we're not responsible for any maintenance of that roadway. It is a roadway within the city of Weed, within the city limits. We respond to calls for service on that roadway. The only roadway that we don't do that is per agreement with California Highway Patrol to Interstate 5. So we are responsible for all traffic collisions and any crimes that occur on that roadway.
And the roadway just is from like Ray's Market to the freeway, right?
Correct. I believe it's possibly the shortest state highway in the state of California.
Have we ever issued warnings to this particular individual before?
I don't have that data. We have had conversations about trucks on that roadway. I have had personal conversations with him, not so much about him working on cars, but he has a problem. That area's truck traffic has become a problem. He personally has problems with, I won't name the companies, there's two trucking companies in particular that I can think of off the top of my head that tend to swap trailers there, and they do so right in front of his business. So he has issues with that. We've had conversations about the truck traffic. During a recent snowstorm, I told one vehicle that was parked blocking the Caltrans shed that's there to move. He was waiting for the business owner, and there was some, I think, a miscommunication between that driver and him as to what he was told. I went back and clarified that I wasn't telling him he couldn't wait for the repairman to come. I just needed him to move so Caltrans could plow out their cinder shed. But there have been discussions regarding trucks. I have not personally told him he cannot work on trucks there. I don't know if this officer has or not, but
Not to my recollection, contacting him specifically.
When you contacted him, did he seem aware of the municipal ordinance?
He did. He made a comment indicating he is aware of it.
After citing him, how long afterwards was the vehicle moved?
I'm unaware. He stated it would take approximately an hour. The tire was off. It was chalked up on blocks, so I can't imagine that would take any short period of time. So it appeared that the vehicle needed to be completely repaired since he had torn it all down to that point before he can even put everything back together and get it back off the roadway into his lot.
Did he provide you any reasoning on why it was he was performing the work there as opposed to on his lot?
He did not.
Did you ask?
I don't believe so.
Was there anything, like, did you hear anything from the owner operator of that vehicle that was there?
He wasn't present. I believe he might have been down the road, but he wasn't in the cab or he wasn't outside of the cab either.
Okay, so the person responsible for the vehicle just was absent while the repairs were occurring?
Correct.
And did you notice anything about the owner's property that would have prohibited that person from moving the vehicle onto that property to be able to repair?
No, the gate was open, the lot was completely clear. It's a large enough lot to fit several commercial vehicles inside.
Councilmember Wetstein, I have clarified the term roadway whenever you're interested.
Yes, when you're ready.
Under chapter 10.04 of our municipal code, there's no definition, but it does provide that the vehicle code definitions shall apply. And under section 530 of the vehicle code, roadway is that portion of a highway improved, designed, or ordinarily used for vehicular traffic.
Can you read it again? Improved?
A roadway is that portion of a highway improved, designed, or ordinarily used for vehicular traffic.
so I will add, that was not a paved section of roadway. That is a dirt shoulder that the vehicle was on. So it's not necessarily on the paved portion, just to clarify.
So it would not be a portion of the road that was particularly used for movement of traffic?
Correct.
Have we had historical roadside repair issues in the city of Weed in the past where?
Yes, this ticket is often, or citation is often issued in the South Weed area, particularly on Shastina Drive, Black Butte Drive, and Vista Drive, where there are no dirt shoulders. We have issues with roadside services as far away. Farthest I've ever contacted is Sacramento, where they're actually doing major mechanical work. They're dropping transmissions, there's pans of oil, and that's where we're running, that's usually what draws my attention is when there's chemicals or fluids that are potentially going to spill into our DIs or onto our roadway, which does cause damage to the roadway as well.
Any other questions from council?
Okay, I don't know about the repairs, but when the vehicle stopped, was any explanation given as to the extent of repairs, or did you inquire to the extent of repairs?
Just
I mean,
stated
if it's a flat tire,
Stated
you
it was
can
a
get it
starter.
done quickly, huh?
Stated it was a starter.
Okay, well, starters can be a little short or long, but anyway, it's on a big rig, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Was it just the cab or was there a trailer attached?
There was a trailer attached as well. It was a truck trailer combo.
I'm just wondering if it was running when he pulled it over, why he couldn't just pull it into the lot.
Correct.
Something must have taken place.
Well, and that was the nature of my question as to why, where was the owner operator of the vehicle? If that person wasn't there, but,
The other party may have information to that.
yeah. Any other questions for the issuing officer?
No, thank you,
I
officer.
think we're okay
Thank you,
with
Counselor.
what he
Thank you.
did. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
We'll hear from the appellant.
Hello, my name is Natasha Pearson. I'm here in regards of JP and Family Roadside Truck Repair. We got a phone call from the company that the trucker pulled in, his starter went out, so he wasn't able to start his vehicle at all. And my husband was currently at a different job at the time, so he got there. It was a starter, so he couldn't move. It was in a safe spot across the street from our shop. And he proceeded to fix the truck in a safely manner, which that's what we do for our business, is roadside truck repair. So I'm just not understanding the ticket. Why? Because that's what, I mean, we've gotten phone calls from Weed PD to get trucks off the side of the road or in the middle section of South Weed or whatnot, because we're roadside truck repair, that's what our license says. So that's why I'm here to contest the ticket. I mean, is it every time he's on the side of the road, if the truck was able to be moved, or if it was a different kind of job where it needed, radiator or something like that, it wouldn't have been done. But a starter, we got the truck driver safely off the side and back onto the highway.
Just so that I know, with your repair business, is there a tow truck available, for instance, that your husband could have moved it from the side of the road onto your property?
No, ma'am. We are not a tow company.
Do you utilize other towing companies to move vehicles if you can't move them? So I know there's Black Butte, they have a big route tow truck. I'm not sure, I think that's probably the only one.
Yes, sir. We've used Black Butte normally that's who we call if we are unable to fix the truck and get them off safely. So that's who we contact.
So what was the time frame that officer gave the ticket while your husband was fixing it?
He was there, not a full hour and a half. That's what our cameras show. Because we have cameras on our shop property, which I submitted a picture of the truck and the trailer across from our shop.
So the full length of repair was an hour and a half?
Yes, he wasn't there longer than an hour and a half.
Any other questions from council?
No,
I think I have what I need.
All right, I would ask for public comment, but I don't think we have any public here besides the officer and the appellant, so.
Do we apply for a public comment when an appeal is?
Yes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just asking, I wasn't sure. Do you guys ask for public comment at court?
It might be helpful sometimes.
Okay.
Do we deliberate individually?
I would, yeah, I mean, unless you want to offer the appellant the opportunity to ask questions to the enforcing officer, you would close the hearing. You can ask follow-up questions if you have to either party. And then, yeah, you would just deliberate right here. And hopefully, if you need to continue the item, you can do that.
No, we can do that.
Otherwise, you can either affirm, deny, or modify the,
Is the officer still
citation.
there? Okay.
Well, I think it'd be only right to give the applicant a chance to ask questions if so desired of the issuing officer. So, did you have any questions for the officer in regards to the violation, the ticket?
I'm just curious why he was cited off of the roadway, and that's, on the citation, it is on roadway, so that confused me, and you gave the definition of the roadway. So it just, that was my confusing part, really, because he was off the roadway and on a dirt road, and it was a safe spot where he was conducting his business. So that's,
I
Have
think
we-
the question was, I think, for the for law enforcement, so.
Well, I can't speak as to what his decision was that day, but where we often run into this is on the on-ramps, yes. So in our view, when we take a traffic accident, we also, the part of the roadway is going to be the dirt shoulder where an accident can occur. Now, by municipal code, it states the improved portion for driving. So that would be the difference between some of the deciding factor, I can only assume, for the officer. But, you know, we run into this at central on-ramps and off-ramps. Quite often, there are large dirt shoulders on the side. But that is considered part of the roadway for the purposes of taking a traffic collision report. They've left the roadway onto the dirt shoulder, the improved dirt shoulder. In this situation, it's an improved dirt shoulder. It's leveled, it's flat. So, again, it doesn't meet the definition, though, of the municipal code roadway.
So, just to clarify, it does look like we actually do need to provide a written decision. So if the council, after deliberating, comes up with a decision, you can direct me to
Right.
essentially prepare a brief written decision that provides information on judicial remedies, et cetera, and that would, we would send that out afterwards to the appellant.
When we give a ticket, here's this roadside repair. So we see roadside repair as fairly typical with the big rigs because it's virtually impossible to get everything fixed at all times. But is there a common denominator when we give a ticket as far as a time frame or the location?
It's officer discretion. And yeah, I mean, for each officer, that's gonna, you know, what do you think is spirit of the law versus letter of the law in that situation? For me, again, where I see it most common is South Weed. We have had some problems in the past, not currently, but with past businesses doing some repair on South Weed Boulevard in the, particularly in the 100 block on the roadway, when they have a functioning facility that's got spaces there. But yeah, I'm typically looking that they're on the roadway proper, what by definition. In this case, I could see how an officer might think that that was the roadway, because again, it's an improved section, but by definition of the municipal code, it's not the paved roadway made for movement. So.
Well, and the definition I read you is it is still a factual question whether or not the location of this semi was on the roadway or not. That's still a factual question within your purview to make that determination.
So, since you were, or Chief, you were aware where this vehicle was, at least in my mind, in what I know of that area, this is like a turnout that's made for people who have emergencies that need to get off the roadway. Is that?
It's a turnout that's been created by trucks pulling off of the roadway over the years, not because of their business at all. It existed prior to their business. The shoulder and the vegetation have been pushed back. It's a large dirt area. It's not necessarily Caltrans' intent to have that area for parking, but it's just kind of developed over the years. But having observed the vehicle that day, it was not on the improved roadway by definition of the municipal code.
Thank you for clarification.
So that leads me to a question as a longtime resident here. Oftentimes I see trucks parked in that area, different hours of the day and night, where they're swapping trailers and they're on private property or they're on the roadway, proper, or in the case of the neighboring business at Motel 6 or blocking Caltrans. I've seen that quite a bit as well. Historically, how have we reacted as the city of Weed to those instances where people are parked there, for hours at a time, or obviously if they block a public works, like in the case of Caltrans trying to plow and cinder the roadways, we engage them immediately. But have we had complaints from Motel 6 and other businesses, and what's kind of the history on that?
There's only two businesses in that area, one being JP Roadside Repair. They have complained about trucks blocking their entrance, and he's taken some efforts to remedy that with his own signage and his, own cones. The only signage on that road that's related to parking is no parking during snow removal. You actually are not supposed to park on any roadway during snow removal conditions. That has a sign in front of their business. This was not, didn't have any bearing on this day. The other issues are, there's a certain time of year when we do get quite a bit of truck traffic out there, and they tend to start wanting to park actually two abreast down the shoulders. That is a problem, but it was not a factor this day either. But we have some times of the year when we do have some parking issues.
So is there a separate ordinance that doesn't allow the swapping of trailers on our public streets?
Not necessarily by ordinance that I'm aware of. Where you run into, depending on, and again, I don't want to name them, there's one company that has multiple trucks that show up at one time. There's one that has 2 to 3 that show up. And they have taken to starting to swap, I've noticed, swap in a different dirt area that's to the north of their, northwest of their property, right at the off-ramp. But some days they're on the roadway, some days they're on the dirt. So it just depends on what day you turn there, but.
So it sounds to me like if 10.28.060 was read to clarify no swapping of trailers and to change roadway to include dirt areas that have been formulated by the flow of traffic, that would solve that problem.
That could help. It can be a hazard. There was one particular, within the last year, I believe, we had a truck that was parked in front of their business waiting for them to show up, and a car came around the corner and ran into the back of that vehicle. But that truck was parked on the improved roadway between the fog line and the edge line before the dirt shoulder. But the car came around and ran into the back of that truck. But it was no fault of theirs that they weren't even on scene yet, I don't believe, but.
So that was parking by the other person, not by the.
Right. But luckily, he wasn't out there working on it at that time, because,
So would you agree with me that in this sense, the way that roadway reads, it doesn't sound like this is an improved area? However, if we had a cleaner definition of what a roadway is, including those dirt areas which have been created by the movement of travel of motor vehicles, and to add not swapping of trailers, it might be an improvement to the ordinance?
I think an improvement on the ordinance would be that, because if you look at it, section B, washing, greasing, or repairing such vehicle. Now, obviously, they don't, part of that intent, I believe, Spirit in 1971 was to keep any chemicals from going down our improved DI system. Now, the other concern would be an unimproved area, such as this, where you have dirt that can easily absorb and become a major situation where you're going to be.
And it's darker than the other areas, and so it creates traffic hazards for people coming around
Can also
corners
do
and
that,
fog.
yes.
So, David, clarification from you, we either accept the citation, reject the citation. Is a modification a warning? What would a modification, if you could give some examples?
If you were, you could reduce the amount.
Okay.
I think, a dismissal with a written warning would also essentially be a modification. I think those are probably your two options.
Okay.
We don't know if there's been multiple, no, not infractions, but multiple warnings.
I don't. I've had conversations with him in the past on multiple subjects that are not enforcement related.
Okay.
We have had conversations, and I remember one particular snowstorm when we had vehicles parked there, and not for his business, they were blocking the road, and there was some tensions that way, that day between drivers, business owners, law enforcement. I said the easiest solution would be to go to Caltrans and make it no parking on the entire stretch of highway. It's only 0.52 miles long. But that's gonna, that's, I don't think necessary, and that's a Caltrans decision. We don't have any authority over that. But that's the only conversations we've had about repairing. My main concern when I turn the corner is that there's not a car in the roadway. That's, again, this officer was thinking probably, potential hazards of being on the roadway. I can't speak what his, discretion was that day, but that's the main thing here is we don't want to contaminate the ground and we don't want anybody getting hurt, so.
So we could correct this so that Officer Yingling could find those individuals who are stopping on the side of the dirt road that are swapping trailers and creating hazards.
Yes, you could do so in the, to include all portions of the public property that we're parking as.
I take it we're not allowed to express our opinion on what we want to do here? What?
Close.
You want to close the public hearing?
Do we have any other further comment from the officer or the applicant?
No, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
We'll close the public hearing then. And deliberate.
Aye. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking in a couple things. An hour and a half is not an exorbitant amount of time alongside the freeway or along the roadway to fix a starter. That's number one. Number two, although it didn't come up, I know to get a tow truck just for a regular car in our little neighborhood can take you 2 damn hours, if not longer. Longer in a storm. I've been out there before, waiting. The fact that I don't see a lot of previous warnings leads me to believe that this isn't an ongoing issue. And it is kind of the nature of the business, as she did speak to. On the negative side, if I was your insurance company, I wouldn't be happy with you because you're creating a hazard on the roadway by spending a lot of time there. If a car comes by and you are partially at fault for creating an accident, believe me, I've seen where, depending on the accident, where everybody stands in line for the next person who gets the lawsuit. Because they work their way up until they have enough funding. So that does create a little bit of a hazard to your business. If you've got employees, it's also a hazard to them. So that's just a point of caution. But I'm not really feeling. I didn't even ask. What is the ticket, the dollar amount? Are we allowed to ask?
Well, it's written on a administrative citation, so it's $100.
$100, okay. And return.
So my feeling is, given the definition of what a roadway is, and the testimony from the officer as well as from the chief, I don't believe it meets the definition of a roadway in our current in our current municipal code, and therefore I think that the citation should be dismissed. I think that the one positive thing of Officer Yingling using his authority to issue this ticket is it brought to light that perhaps there needs to be some modifications to the municipal code as far as this definition is concerned and what we really mean by repairing on the side of our roadway, so that we could give the officers a little more ability to tackle the problems that we are seeing here. And of course, with the dismissal, I would say perhaps a strong warning and a caution that the ordinance may be changing, and that it sounds like there's plenty of open communication between the police department and our local business, and that there's a way that we could make it work. And I agree with Ken, an hour and a half, it's one of those things, you could have waited for the tow truck longer than him repairing it. So how long was the hazard going to be there in which?
Regardless.
So, those are my thoughts on this current citation. But
You staying out? I like that sweater.
Yes, so I feel like, the ticket should be dismissed also, because I feel like that's not enough time. I mean, I've called for a tow truck and it took 7 hours for them to
See?
come. So, I'm there, but, like I said, he couldn't move it because the starter's dead, so he really didn't have that option. I really agree that, I mean, he's, that's not an adequate time, so I feel like the ticket should be dismissed also.
So I might be a little late here, but further discussion has prompted a question. So we issued a citation to this company for the roadside repair. Have we, or is there cause to issue a citation to the owner-operator for parking the vehicle there to begin with? Because I think the issue we're talking about here is that we have a truck that's on a roadway, and we issued a citation to the repair company, but where's the liability, if any? And I'm asking because I don't know, for the owner-operator of deciding to park on a side of a roadway. Because I'm assuming from my experience with car mechanics is that, if your starter doesn't operate correctly, it doesn't become a problem until you turn the engine off. So why did the owner-operator decide to park on the side of a roadway and shut the engine off in that particular place, as opposed to a parking lot or somewhere you would normally stop operating a vehicle?
Well, there is not a parking violation here. This is a municipal code violation of what was thought to be working on a roadway. So it wasn't not necessarily it's in the parking section, 10.28, but the violation's not necessarily that the vehicle's illegally parked. The vehicle's parked for this service. So I'm not arguing either way. The question here is not whether it is a length of time. The question is it necessitated by an emergency? Now, it sounds like it's quite possible the vehicle wasn't on the definition of a roadway, but for future instances, if you're going to go based on time and what can take 7 hours to get a tow truck, that's not the question here. The question is were they doing it on the roadway or not? And I think that's where I would like to see clarification for further instance.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, because.
I mean, it says no person shall park a vehicle upon any roadway or in or upon any public parking lot for the principal purpose of B, washing, greasing, or repairing such vehicle except repairs necessitated by an emergency. So it prohibits any person from doing that.
Okay.
So I think the officer has discretion as to which person they're gonna cite for that violation.
All right. Thank you. That was just for my own edification, because I didn't know.
Well,
So,
it's also, there's a definition of how extensive that repair is. I mean, it's a flat tire, that's one thing, I mean, there's a lot of things that don't take that long, for me anyways.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between the letter and the spirit of the law, that we have a wonderful police department that exercises.
And again, I know, I can think of one residence in particular where they like to pull their car out and put it up on blocks in front of the house on the street. That's where I'm going to be like, hey, what's going on? Whether it be a 5-minute job or a 10-hour job, that's where I'm concerned. And again, I think just the way I read it, it's one, a safety issue, and two, a contamination issue. That's what you're really concerned about, so.
All right. Well, as usual, we've fully exhausted the topic to make sure we have understanding and
So,
clarification.
Yeah.
So is this something we're just gonna, the council member make a motion and a vote on
Yes, and then, and that motion should include direction for me to provide a written decision consistent with the council's decision on the citation.
Is a written decision necessary if we are dismissing the citation?
I guess that depends on if we're looking at the letter or the spirit of the code provision. It does say
Or the
that,
pocketbook of the,
I mean, technically, the city would have the ability to appeal that decision, I guess.
For me, I'm thinking that based upon the spirit of the law, I don't see a violation. Based on the definition, I also don't see clarity for the law enforcement. Do we have to go any further than that?
I second whatever Ken just said, because it was
So is that a formal
eloquently-
motion?
Huh?
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay.
That takes.
I would,
So under the spirit of the law, we don't see the infraction. And under the definition of the infraction, we don't see the definition as being, I don't even remember what I said, being the same. We don't see the infraction because it's not clear in our municipal code.
That
So
this
you're-
was on the roadway.
Correct.
so you're making a motion to dismiss
And a
based
motion-
on a lack of clarity from our municipal code?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
I second.
So I'd like to amend the motion, that we also, entrust the staff to, look at and begin the revising of that code for clarification, so that our officers as well as our public are clear on the letter and spirit of the law, that they're corrected and not vague or.
I'll second that motion as amended. I've been
Okay,
waiting
there's an
for that.
amended motion then on the table. That would be up for a vote first, and
Right.
if that is successful, then that will negate the first motion.
Okay.
Can I
If it's-
amend the
if it
amended
fails-
motion?
No, you cannot.
To indicate that if there is a vote for dismissal, we're not writing a legal letter explaining our position?
What, perhaps a friendly amendment, if if Mayor Parham would accept that?
I would, so accept that.
And I will second that friendly amendment.
So that no written decision is issued?
Should the dismissal be passed?
Pass. Hold on, I want to make, no.
There can only be three.
Your turn.
at a
We're all
time.
going to amend this thing. Sorry, it's late.
And so, yeah, and so, Mayor Pro Tem, you were
Yeah.
okay with that friendly
I'm
amendment?
okay with the friendly amendment to the motion.
To the amended motion?
The amended. Wait,
All right.
Pat wants to return yet.
All in favor of, the friendly amended motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
So
Motion
the
carries.
citation is dismissed, and I will not be issuing you a written decision. This dismissal will be reflected in the minutes.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, thank you. I do have one question. So
Oh,
we are.
don't tempt us now, no.
Well, we are roadside truck repair. So what is, I mean, he gets calls on the side of the road on, it could be on Southweed or
Could be on the
do we
freeway.
always refer them to a tow truck and not attempt fixing the vehicle? Or, I mean, or does he get a citation every time he takes a tire off or, you know?
So my understanding is that the way the law is structured is it falls under emergency. So,
So I will add, she spoke earlier of times we've referred somebody to them. That's typically, most common problem that we have with a big rig is an airline. And it will lock up the brakes, it'll do some other stuff. Those oftentimes are emergencies because they're in the roadway. And the emergency is we need to get them out of the roadway. Sometimes, again, in that situation, a tow truck may not be available or maybe a wait, and we will refer them just to get them out of the road. That's what we view, or I view, I can't speak for all officers, that's what I view as an emergency, and an allowable circumstance. Now, somebody that's, I'm broke down, I'm a long haul driver, and again, I'll refer to what I spoke about before because I've seen it on multiple occasions. We're dropping major pieces of equipment, and fluids are coming out, and that becomes a problem. You know, we do, I tend to drive by when they're fixing a tire, okay? They're not going to get hit by a car. They're trying to get that vehicle. And in Southweed, there's limited parking in many streets, including Vista in particular. There is no parking. That's a no parking street. So if they're broke down, you have the time to fix the tires sooner than it would take to get the tow truck there. So, I mean, you've got to weigh that when you're going to, but when somebody's driving up, and it's not JP, roadside repair, I've seen mechanics from Sacramento, or the truck is sitting there waiting for a mechanic from 200 miles away. Yeah, that's created a problem, and that's when they are in violation, they need to move.
I think the most clarity is that that we don't want that area to be used to repair vehicles. But obviously, there's going to be situations like this one where you're not at risk of contaminating or dropping a bunch of oil everywhere or any of those kind of things. And the officers definitely have discretion in talking with your husband to try to figure out what's going on. And I would anticipate that because it sounds like there's issues on this particular strip of land, including ones that cause difficulties for your business, that we probably are going to have to clarify that roadway to make sure that that strip that's there will be that you can't use it for repairing unless it's an emergency, like we've talked about. And hopefully we can make it that it's safer for cars that are going in that area. Because even just having a truck sitting there, if somebody, for instance, lost their brakes or a tire burst, they can't pull into there, right? Because you're blocking it. And then, we want to make sure that people aren't deciding that they want to swap their trailers on a dirt side of the road because it creates a whole lot of issues. So unfortunately, I know that's probably clear as mud. But it sounds like we have a good communication between law enforcement and your business. And just, explaining how long it's going to be, what you're doing, that, you're not dropping a transmission in the middle of the street. We'll probably fix that for the future.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
all right.
I want to amend that.
Amend what I said?
So we'll add that to our list of ordinances for review and update.
I will be happy to work with the chief on that one.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
And Officer Yingling, thank you for bringing this to our
Staying
attention.
so late.
All right, our next item is staff reports. We'll start with Chief Carter.
All right, good evening. Last month, we ran 68 calls for emergency, and they were covered by 2 full-time personnel, 5 resident firefighters, and 5 volunteer firefighters. Last month, 4 of our firefighters completed confined space technician training. We have 1 new qualified driver operator. We completed 110 total hours of training last month. 1 passed the paramedic program, and 1 passed the national EMT test. And over the next month, we'll be working on sending out the right entry agreements for our fuel mitigation grant and continue to work on recruiting more volunteers through our FEMA grant.
On the driver operator, what type of licensing was the hours attributable to? Which
kind of-
which vehicles?
So it's a firefighter endorsement is what it's referred to. And that includes not only skill related, like how to operate the fire engine, but 40 hours of driving and then a written test at the DMV as well.
All right, thank you.
Somebody go get Mark.
Oh, he's here.
That went on a lot longer than
Could've went home, made a
the
sandwich and
the
got
other
back.
recusals from earlier.
You were supposed to bring him.
Director Porterfield.
Should've went to Pitt's down there and eat.
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
All right, Director Davis.
Yes, so next week we will be busy potholing for water lines, doing a lot of investigation for this water bypass project that we have going on up in the college area. People, during investigations, we usually try to shut off some valves, see if it affects the line. So there might be a time where people might run out of water. It is just because we are trying to investigate, see what valves control it, because that is a big issue up there in that area. That's the reason why we are doing this project. And that's about it.
All right, Chief Mayberry.
I don't have much, just attended the COS Administration of Justice Advisory meeting. They are working on a degree program to get candidates, future candidates in compliance with legislation that currently, without change, will require an officer to have 2 degrees to be a police officer. So hopefully that can either be clarified or stricken maybe to just particularly they're working on an administration of justice associate's degree, which should get everybody in compliance, but without change to the wording of the current law, it will require 2 degrees to be an officer, so, besides age restrictions that have been imposed. Anyway, that's all I have.
Makes it harder.
All right, spare my opinions on Sacramento and City Clerk Dookie.
We do have a planning commission meeting next week, and I am still searching for the 5th planning commissioner. It can be somebody from a resident in town or our sphere of influence. So if you guys know of anyone, please send them my way. I would appreciate it. It gets difficult during storm seasons to make sure I have a quorum.
Okay.
All right, again, appeal to our 6 or 7 YouTube viewers. If you are a local resident or sphere of influence, please consider applying for the planning commission position. And our city attorney.
No report this evening. Thank you.
All right.
You can report that we got you out of a letter.
Thank you for for getting me out of a letter.
All right. Our next item is closed session, and I will accept a motion.
I so move.
I will second. All in favor of adjourning to closed session?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Get the restroom first. That was light.
understand, you got some nasty stuff moving in later today.
Yes, we have a nasty storm coming in, but it's nothing like that nasty woman. I do not want to deal with that woman.
Sonny, we are on the air live.